For the last several months, the Parents of Teens Bible class, like the rest of the congregation, has been studying the Gospel of Mark together. And when asked to put together one thought or one idea that might be instructive for the whole church, I kept thinking about this one story in Mark chapter 6. One of the major themes that Mark has throughout his gospel is to ask his reader to answer this question: who is Jesus, and what does it mean to be his disciple? And he does this by having many people in the stories state their belief about who Jesus is. And none of them get it right in the first 15 chapters. Herod thinks that Jesus might be the resurrected John the Baptist whom he beheaded. Some of the disciples believe that they know his family, his mother, father, brothers, and sisters, and they think they know who he is, but it's clear that they don't. Even the disciples are confused about his identity. And so this story that comes in the middle of the book is bookended by two miraculous feedings. On one side of the lake, Jesus feeds 5,000 people. On the other side of the lake, he feeds 4,000 people. And in between, Jesus is walking across the lake. You remember he has sent his disciples over in a boat to Bethsaida, to the other side of the lake, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he dismissed them, he goes to pray. So it's late at night, and he's walking across the lake, and it says the wind was against the disciples in the boat. And then they see Jesus walking across the water, and they don't know who he is. The disciples don't know who Jesus is. It says they thought he was a ghost. So they cry out. And Jesus immediately says this. And this is the crux of the story and the answer to Mark's question, who is Jesus? He says, "Take courage. Do not be afraid. It is I." Isn't that a word of encouragement for a time like today, when there's so much uncertainty in the world? Jobs lost, economies shattered, lives lost. Who knows what the future will bring? Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid. I find it interesting to look at the current level of angst in society and see how many people are trying to find blame, to assign blame. Who started this virus? Who proliferated this virus? Who didn't stop the virus fast enough? And if you look at the Bible, when people ask God why bad things happen, he never gives them a direct answer. For example, when Job asked the Lord, "Why do these bad things happen?" God doesn't answer him, doesn't give him a direct answer. When Jesus is asked about the Tower of Siloam falling on people, whose fault was it, they want to know. He doesn't tell them whose fault it was. What he does is he turns the question around and he says, basically, if the tower had fallen on you, would have you been ready? When the disciples ask him about this blind man, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus doesn't tell them whose fault it is. In all of these things, the church, I think, can learn from that response. We need to be more focused not on who to assign blame to, but on seeing the problem around us. What can we do to alleviate pain and suffering? All of us, as the hands and the feet and the arms of Jesus, we need to be reaching out into pockets of misery and deprivation and trying to do what the church is meant to do, to be Jesus in the world. And remember, it's all going to be okay. Just as Jesus said in the boat, take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid.